for too long. Challenger. This one hungers. The Val engineered some of the fiercest creatures to ever exist.
So, hey, this is Thor. Today I want to talk about the update to my unique build for Mercenary. In my previous videos I introduced my combo about Ice Wall Explosion, which is using Explosive Shot and Glacial Bolt. Then I went through stacking up Armor and Energy Shield for best survivability in the late game. I have played a lot since then, made my build much stronger, and found some other fun stuff to share. As you can see, I just defeated the big boss in the Twisted Domain and get my third pair of Breach Points in the Atlas passive trait. Well, there's still another pair to go, but probably another day. Anyway, let's get started. First of all, I want to talk about Blueflame. I would assume that everybody actually already know what Explosive Shot is, which basically a crossbow skill deals AoE fire damage. Like you shot that and just like a rifle gun goes to the AoE damage. However, I recently find that this glove, this Blueflame braces, this cuff, let's actually do a fun thing. Let's do 100% fire damage converted to cold damage. As you may aware that I'm actually a heavy user of Glacial Bolt, and this conversion actually triggers me. I asked myself, what if I can use Explosive Shot with Herald of Ice to deal a even larger range of AoE damage with cold or ice, and what if I could fully just focus on scaling cold damage and completely ignore like anything about other elemental damage like fires. So I then went to respec my character and do experiment, and you know what, that works amazing, and now it becomes my primary setup for clearing the mobs on the map, because it really can easily one-shot a large group of monsters. So I will probably just go through the skill gem setup quickly. As we could say, this Explosive Shot, I already got 5 slots for it, and the first one is going to be Scatter Shot, which add additional 2 projectiles for Explosive Shot, which is basically the core to make it actually dealing damage as we expected. And then because it's actually very slow, has a very slow base attack speed and reload speed, so I actually add like 25% more attack speed, and trying to increase its reload speed as well, to make the mapping more efficient or feels better. And I will do penetrate 30% cold resistance as well. So generally in mapping, I don't really want to apply and not like frost bomb or something, another curse to actually reduce the cold resistance for those monsters, like as an additional step. I'm just too lazy. I go for a penetrate on cold resistance, actually works very well. And the last one I will actually talk about later. It's actually more about survivability rather than damage. So basically, for explosive shot, I just go for one particular damage dealer with scatter shot, and then two gem about the reload and attack speed, and one with the cold resistance. And because we are going to have Herald of Ice, I probably also want to go through that as well. So the explosive shot now deal cold damage, so it actually can build up the can freeze the enemy and actually do shatter them, and that shatter triggers Herald of Ice, and then the Herald of Ice, I actually want to have like more area of effect for it, and let it to actually cause another freeze, another more freeze build up, so that it can sort of like chain that explosion, and then like gain 25% more of extra cold damage, and +1 level to supported cold skills. So the skills of Herald, skill level of Herald of Ice is actually matters a lot. Like if you can see just the 19 level, it's about 9k damage, but +1 becomes 10k. It's quite a lot. So this is basically it. Also, yeah, another thing, overwhelming presence. This one, it's kind of like, because I do want to freeze enemy to trigger the Herald of Ice, and the overwhelming presence will actually lower their threshold to be freezed. Regarding the weapon, actually, I use weapon set 2 actually to deal the damage. So technically speaking, you just need as much physical damage as possible. But meanwhile, I actually would suggest to have the gain mana per enemy killed at the same time, if you could afford, because when the skill level quite high, it's actually costs a lot of mana. So to reduce, or basically to avoid having the need to drink the mana portion during the mapping, having a gain mana per enemy kill will basically solve that problem, so you don't really need to drink mana portion. Yeah, that's probably it. And let's talk about Glacial Bolt. So while Explosive Shot plus the Herald of Ice dominate my fun time of mapping, Glacial Bolt is my exclusive choice for boss fight, and it does deal crazy amount of cold damage. So don't really be fooled by these values showing in the panel. It just says this damage is 2.8 k, which seems to be really low, but actually it is not. It deals way more damage than the panel shows. So if you just expand the panel, it will actually tell you what does this number come from. This is just the projectile damage that it's quite very low. It's the before the ice wall created, that is the damage when that bolt hit the enemy. That costs about 2.8k. That's very low. But when it create the ice wall, ice crystals, that wall actually consists 9 ice crystals for each wall. Like there are kind of like 4 there, the 1 at the middle. So this damage per use is per ice crystal. So each ice crystal being destroyed will cause about this 9.5k damage, and you just imagine all of them all 9 of them throw into a big boss, like each of them would actually create that amount of damage. That would actually be a lot. And what's better is we also got Scatter Shot on Glacial Bolt, which means the damage is actually +3, because now instead of just a 1 projectile, we fired 3 projectiles, and each of them create an ice wall, and each ice wall create 9 ice crystals. So technically speaking, when you get shot, you fire a bolt, it's actually creating 27 ice crystals, and 27 of them throw into the same boss. It's a lot. So don't be fooled by the panel. It's actually really good for the single target. I actually have another video dedicatedly explain this, so here is just a bare minimum explain. Saying that, I don't think Glacial Bolt is overpowered in any way, and it's when I fighting the pinnacle bosses like this one, it's not a one shot. It's still having fun with this fight. It's not like something you would see from like some others showing electricity based build that they kill boss super quickly. It's not that kind of stuff. But it's still very effective and making you, at least myself, enjoy the pinnacle boss fight. However, for bosses that are not pinnacle, say the ones in each map node, you will really want to increase the difficulty when taking the fight. Like this node, I think you will really want to increase the difficulties. Otherwise, this boss is actually going to be getting one shot. For those ones that actually you can see from the map. Which, like, if they just always getting one shot and die so quickly, I would feel like it's getting super boring very quickly. So yeah, I would actually always recommend to go like T16 map, which means area level 80. With +4 boss difficulty all the time, unless you want to guarantee the success farming on citadels. And you know what? There's a good part of the boss points. This one says area with map bosses are always irritated, so it means when you use T15 map on a map with boss, it's actually auto upgrade to 80. So you don't really need to juice it with a tablet that just do irritation. You could do something else, like adding bridge or adding expedition or adding delirium, that kind of stuff. So you don't really need to irritate that. That's a really good node that I think worth mentioning. Yes. But there actually are 2 cents about the boss difficulties. Kind of like it quite surprised me about how weak the Stone Citadel boss is when I using a T15 map with no boss difficulty with this build. Like yesterday, I was trying to farm the fragment dropping from the Citadel, and Citadel is generally kind of like not really that easy to find. So I want to be super safe to guarantee that I got that fragment. So I went to T15 map and I cancelled all the boss difficulty, and then went to that fight, and the result is actually very surprising. the boss is literally loses all his HP in the basically first second probably, except the last 1 point, which is locked by the system, and I have to stand there and watch the full animation for like 1 minute. And there used to be a fight between us before this build under the same map level and the same boss difficulty, but after I switched to that, to this one, and all in like the cold damage and scaling that, it feels like the T15 plus no boss difficulty with the Citadel boss is no longer enjoyable. I would definitely increase the difficulty next time seeing him. So skill gen setup for Glacial Bolt, we also go for scatter shot. That's also the main thing that makes this skill deal good damage. And we go heft, which provides 30% more maximum physical damage, and we go 25 extra cold damage. We go like 40% more area damage but less area effect. This one is actually fine because we mainly use it for boss fight. We don't really care too much about the area effect, but we want the area damage to be higher. And the last one, again, that's the survivability stuff. I will talk about it later. But other than that, actually there are a few support skills that worth mentioning. Generally, when enjoy those boss fights, I will actually use other skills in combination to do some extra support in my fight. So this Rip While Ballista, it can slow bosses a little bit. So I generally would kind of like place it once and let it to file something and to cause the slow to the boss to make my fight a little bit easier. So I want to place them very quick, so I can just walk and place super fast and just move away. And the base attack speed is so slow, so I want to add more attack speed. Knock back enemies, it's very optional. Maybe not really big deal, but I haven't found a better replacement. And have a 40% more skill duration means this thing actually lasts longer. So this Rip While Ballista, it's a sort of good support, but this Frost Bomb, which I'm going to talk next, is probably more important, because we are now all in cold damage, and for the Glacial Bolt, I don't do penetration on cold resistance on enemy. It's basically because I actually want to do Frost Bombs that give a cold exposure, which directly lower the cold resistance on the enemy or the boss, and it can be lowered below 0, so it's kind of like, it's not like penetration. The maximum you can get is lower the cold resistance of enemy to 0, but this Frost Bomb cold exposure, it can actually make the enemy's cold resistance to be negative if they are not above like 30%. There is another curse. I think if we want, we can combine both, but I think just a single Frost Bomb is good enough. So it applies immediately, unlike the curse. So as long as you place it, the first pulse will directly apply the cold exposure, which is exactly what I want, and minus 30% cold resistance is, technically speaking, good enough. So what I want to do with it is, as a support gems, is going for 40% more area of effect, so make this ring a little bit larger, faster cast speed. The exposure, I want to increase that effect. So I think currently once I drop a Frost bomb, it minus 30% of the cold resistance instead of the default. I think default is 20%, that kind of stuff. So now it's about 30%. And well, the last one is I'm not sure what's the best. I just put a front of mana so that I got better recover of mana. I'm not sure it's actually super important. I probably find another replacement some other day. But yeah, it's a good support skill that helps deal more cold damage. For boss fight, yeah, so I basically will disable the Herald of Highest and Overwhelming, that these two are going to be used on mapping, but I will enable the attrition. So that one will give me the chance to deal more damage over time as long as I stay in the arena. So every 2 seconds, I'm going to gain 1% more hit damage against them, and it will up to 58% of the total hit damage. So actually, I think it's quite obvious. Actually, I can feel the differences. So that's a recommendation on boss fight. But in normal map bosses, you probably don't really need that. They are there, even with +4 difficulties, they are still going to be defeated in a short amount of time, to be honest. So whether you have attrition or not opened, enabled on those map fights, it's really up to you. But for pinnacle bosses, I definitely recommend to open that, because we're not really able to one-shot them. It's still an enjoyable fight, so making sure that we do enjoy that without losing it. Blink is actually another special thing that changed a lot since my previous build, because I was trying to fight against the Arbiter of Ash, and that fight was very tough. There is a lot of one-shot mechanism from that boss, and I find the normal movement or dodge roll just not good enough. So to reach that file, that special area that I need to reach during that fight, I think having a blink really helps a lot, or really changes the fight. Like before I have the blink, I'm really struggle with that, and because it's one-shot mechanism, it does not matter how good defense layer I have, I just getting one shot. So I have to match that mechanism to be able to stay in the arena with the Arbiter of Ash. That is the final pinnacle boss of this the current game. So Blink really helped me a lot, and since then I find I really like the mobility it brings. So even after that fight, I still keep it at all time, and I do feel it makes even the boss fight generally easier. For example, in the Twisted Domain with this boss, there are a lot of skills of him tracking my position and trying to deal damage. While if I just blink away, I think I take much less damage. Even though I sometimes still get a hit, but with my current defense layer, I don't think it's a big deal. But I will talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, overall the Blink is really good. Highly recommended. And if you are going to fight against Arbiter of Ash, I think that's actually a must-have. If you are someone like me that's not really good at the ARPG operations and faster operation speed overall. So I got the most important, I think, for the Blink is the cooldown recovery rate, so I can use have a much less waiting time. I think by default it's 3 seconds. It's not really much less, but like as much as possible would probably the expectation here. So reduce it to 2.5 is a good. And like cast speed, trying to make the cast faster, and trying to make the cooldown less, and yeah, that is probably the core thing of that. The other 2 slots is kind of like still experimenting. I feel like because I enable it all the time, gain a little bit of mana regeneration would be good. And actually I would talk about why I need more mana generation in general in the defense layer part. And this one gain a little bit more stun threshold. I don't know, it's just something like I put there, feels fine, and still under experimenting. But overall, in combination of all of this, it does make the boss fighting really enjoyable. As for the weapon, I think that my main weapon needs to be like as high damage as I can get. That's the most important thing. While for boss fight, gain mana per kill is not really important, just as we need for the explosive shot when mapping, but leech some mana is recommended. For the same purpose, like I feel it's better to reduce the needs of drinking mana potion during boss fight as well. So with this leech mana thing in the weapon, I feel it's definitely like much less need to drink the mana potion, or basically just don't need to drink that unless I got in a good amount of damage that actually hurting my mana, then I have to drink it. But yeah, again, that's another thing I want to talk about in the defense layer, not for now. What the other things I need to mention here? Right, yeah. So the skill gems I have talked about, you may see that I use scatter shot in both Glacial Bolt and explosive shot. And I'm not a Gemling Legionnaire, so I'm not kind of like having my ascendancy points to support me to use the same support gem for different skills that's come from somewhere else, which is this helmet. This helmet made it possible to use different support gem, same support gem for different skills, which makes this build possible actually. Without that, I think I have to swap the support gem all the time in between boss fight and mapping, but with that I don't need to. And there are other use cases about that as well, so that now I can make a combo of that. So as I think I talk about it a lot, so kind of like I create a wall and explode it, which I used to call ice wall explosion. That actually create a huge damage as well. In general, it's just these days my damage getting much higher, so in this combination no longer become so appear so frequently as it used to be. But yeah, if you feel like your damage is probably not high enough, trying to do this combo will definitely give you much higher damage at once when you explode all the ice walls with the explosive shot in general. So that makes it possible, and also kind of like many different skills may may require have similar needs of for the skill gem. Say for example, I think explosive shot I need more attack speed. Rip while ballista I also need more attack speed. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So having the ability to use same support gem in different skills is I think it's very important to my build. Passive nodes for attacks. As a witch hunter, I think these two branches are primarily for damage, like I do calling strike, decimating strike. So and this is the middle nodes will give me higher damage when against the low life enemies. So this is like pure damage branch, and this one is also kind of damage focused, like it gives concentration value to the enemy, and the concentration, breaking their concentration means they will have less cooldown rate, which generally means they will have the less frequency of using their skills. I feel quite a good big difference in boss fight, especially for like the Arbiter of Ash, that with this concentration debuff, I think I get better survivability of going through less that one-shot mechanism, while if I don't have that, I think there's one battle it gives me like a very frequent one-shot mechanism, like I have to react continuously, and basically died because of that. That with that high frequency of one-shot mechanism, that's just too much. But with this concentration debuff, I think it does works better. I think I only experienced once each type of the one shot in my recent fight, and I win that fight. So I do appreciate that, and overall the final node will actually give me 30% more damage based on their missing concentration. So it's also a thing that increase my damage. So in general, the damage we are trying to add is like this group is about the attack area damage, because our skills like Glacial Bolt, Explosive Shot, they are all area attack skills. They have they are marked as AoE and they are marked as attack, so this applies to both. This is kind of like 25, 12, 12, 12. This is just an 8, but this is increase the area effect. Well, it's used for travel. And here, like 2% of increase per 5 with lowest attribute. I previously don't really know how good it is, but after I swapped my build to, or adapt my build to get the blink, which actually requires quite a lot of intelligence, like 133 of that, and because of my helmet actually requires 25 more increased attribute requirement, I actually need 150. Well, this 150 is probably still lower than the 25% because there's another 3 nodes actually reduce the attribute requirement as well. So as a balance, I only need I need 150 at the end, but the 150 intelligence is actually give me a lot of increased damage as well according to this node. So actually this adding attributes is not a bad idea in terms of increasing damage because of this node. And because we are all in code now, so this group we can do increase cold damage, and more cold damage with like more chill duration on enemies. And there is another one very important, that when enemies chilled, we gain 30% increased damage against that. So this range makes quite significant difference. And there is another group of attack damage. I believe that's the shape is designed for Druid, which is not released yet, but we definitely can use that. It's easy to reach, close to each other, and a large group. So it's kind of 10%, 10%, and 25%. 10%, 10%, 25%. 10%, 10%, 25%, that kind of stuff. This is quite a good group of nodes for attack damage. And this small group, 10%, 10% element damage, and this one give me 30% more damage, as well as adding 5% to all elemental resistance. So this is a very good node. For attack, I think it's probably it. I also apply those things on the jewels. I soak it into my passive tree. So you can see, like, I'm trying to increase cold damage with this jewel, and this one also penetrate cold resistance. This one is increased freeze build up, and this one has increased cold damage. So yeah, and actually rings. I also have increased cold damage. Is 31%. This is 30%. Those kind of stuff. So because now we are all in cold damage, we can just kind of like scale the whole thing in the same direction. I think that's about it for the attack. So for the defense, I basically choose to go armor and energy shield. You can see I have about 4k armor, which because the recent patch makes it more effective, now I got like 5. The estimate reduction is 51%, but we all know that it's based on how much a hit against you. So it's not directly reducing 51% of everything, but in general I feel that 4k number is a good amount. It's already very survivable. And energy shield, you could find that I really have, I think it's a high energy shield as a mercenary. I got like 5.6k, but you may immediately notice that I have really low life point, which is just about 900. That is because as a like strength character, we actually need a good base to scale energy shield if we really want to rely on the energy shield. Then I got this ghost robe, which converts about 59% of my maximum life to energy shield. Well, I mean, without this robe, I actually have about more than 2k life, but with all the nodes I can only have 400 of energy shield. But with this rope, I got reduced life to 883, but I got 5.6k energy shield. So that actually make a huge difference. But saying that, the energy shield number, if I just adding this number, it probably not as good as it would looks like. So there is a very crucial part actually to make the armor and armor and energy shield works good together. I'll just put it aside. It's this node. This node applies armor to energy shield. So basically means even with just that kind of like that amount of energy shield, for the physical damage goes through that, it will be reduced by your armor. And I find that all the damage over time also goes through the energy shield after I apply armor to it, which means the poison, the bleeding, and all those stuff, they go through the energy shield after I apply these nodes. So actually this is the most important node that makes the armor plus energy shield combo actually works or actually possible as a defensive choice. And it actually works very good. A funny fact is, like, when I fight the Chaos Trimaster with this armor plus energy shield combo, he literally did no damage to me. So even I just stand and let him hit me, I'm not going to die because of that. So yeah, it's actually quite good. But this is not the only special thing we actually need. I also convert the evasion rating to armor as well, so because like my choice goes to armor plus energy shield, so I always want to just focus on these 2 values, and there are indeed some nodes that scale both. So these are scale armor and energy shield, armor and energy shield, this group armor and energy shield. They're actually another group, but it's too far away. I don't think my current level, I'm 93, I don't think I can reach that part, so I will just leave it. Yeah. The special thing for that is I also add another note saying all damage is taken from mana before life. So yeah, technically speaking, I'm not just based on life plus energy shield, I'm also put my mana into that region that pool that can tank the damage. But this one actually reduce my mana recovery rate, so that's basically why I was trying to emphasize, like, we do want to more mana regeneration or recovery, either by gain mana per kill or leech mana, or by the support gem that give us a higher mana recovery rate, because we want to also use mana to tank some damage if it really goes through the energy shield as a safety guard. So at the end, like in total, we can take a lot of damage by adding the 3 numbers. Like we get about 900, plus about 1100, plus 5600. It's about like 6700. 7600, that kind of stuff. So it's quite a lot to tank the damages. So we just no need to worry about getting one shot by either mobs or bosses. They just cannot do that. And we have armor applied to our energy shield, so that actually makes the energy shield much more effective without having the armor applied to it. So like imagine a physical damage, like without armor it will definitely cause more damage into energy shield, but with armor reduction it goes less. And what else? Actually, there are some special thing to be mentioned is the stun. Because the stun is based on life, and after wearing the ghost robe, our life is super low. So a small damage by default will actually stun us, and getting stun all the time is not fun. So we actually want to increase our stun threshold. The stun threshold, by my according to my experience, this 4 nodes is good enough in general, and they are very easy to reach, close to the nodes that we're trying to scale our energy shield. So the like again 8% of maximum energy shield, 8%, and the last one is again 20%. So they are actually a lot. Speaking of that, there's no like clear value showing anywhere like how much stun threshold you actually have, and I'm not really clear what the formula it is when trying to calculate the stun, but I could feel significant difference between having that much stun threshold and without having that much. So basically, from what I can tell, currently if the damage is less than 2k, I'm not going to get stunned in general, but if it's more than 2k, I will get in stun. That's a rough feeling of that. And a part of getting stun or not getting stun that impact our battle experience and how much damage we could do while mapping. Like if you get stun, you are not able to attack, while if you're not getting stun, you can keep attacking. That kind of stuff. However, it's not being stunned is not always the bad thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if the damage is actually quite large, we actually can like utilize it as a trigger point of recover our energy shield. So there is a special support gem that I purposely omitted previously to not explain it when going through the attack skills, which is energy barrier. This one will actually allows us to immediately recharge the energy shield when getting stunned, and for 2 seconds without getting interrupted. So it means like if I'm shooting like Glacial bolt, or I'm shooting explosive shot, and then I got stunned by say an enemy or a monster give me a considerable damage like 2k, I'm going to get a stun, but at the same time my energy shield will get in recharge immediately, so it means I'm technically speaking safe from that considerable damage. I'm not going to leave myself always vulnerable with the situation that I have already got 2k energy shield reduced and I'm not able to recover it immediately because I have to wait about a few seconds later without taking damage to for the energy shield to recharge. This one gives us the chance to immediately charge to make us really much more safer when mapping or doing boss fight. It's generally like if the hit damage is that high, having an immediate recover and getting stunned and getting immediate recharge of energy shield actually safer than not having it. But if it's a small damage, really not getting stunned is much better feeling. Yeah, I think that's probably it. So we have went through the Blueflame, which is using explosive shot and convert the fire damage to cold and use it with Herald of Ice to do the bigger AoE damage during mapping, and we have covered using Glacial Bolt with some support skills to do boss fight, which makes it really effective and enjoyable, but without being too overpowered from what I could say. Yeah, we also went through the defensive layer that we add on top of that, so to make ourselves quite safe when either mapping or doing boss fight. So yeah, I think that's it. I generally would call that as a Blueflame, Glacial, Blink, Energy Shield, Mercenary, whatever. So hopefully that would inspire you when watching and trying to like understand the reason behind this build, and maybe have more fun with after watching this. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks.